I don't do it for everybody, my friend. I don't do it for everybody. Did they take you like this the official club? I think I'm gonna lie.
Good evening, Atherton. Welcome, everybody. Oh, it's so good to see all you smiling faces out there. It's wonderful to be here. Isn't God wonderful? Isn't it a beautiful day we have today? Isn't it great? I know. And a great day to celebrate some birthdays today. We have Lillian Yep is celebrating, Marianne Garrett, Ben Ferruta. Are you here, Ben? Yeah. She was great in our play. That was great. Ronald Jackson, Liangjin Liu, Bill Goddard. I know Bill's here. We had dinner with him. Welcome back, Bill. You and Karen. Dan Shaw, who will be back shortly. Karen Sundgren, Kiku Nagai, Herbert, Devon, and Kitty Mint. Happy birthdays to all of you. We all celebrate your wonderful lives. We have a new resident that Helen Reed will be introducing tonight, so let's welcome her.
Hi, everybody. I'm happy to introduce to you Carolyn Dimkak, and she has just moved into 715B, and that's one of the triplexes over near the new building, new construction, new whatever. And so we just are so happy that she's here. So Carolyn was born and raised in St. Paul, Minnesota, and she moved to California, and she's been here almost 64 years, so she's almost a native Californian. And she's married to Frank, who was a mechanical engineer, and he died in 1991 of cancer. So she has 3 children. She has 2 boys and a girl. Her boy Stuart lives in Monrovia, and the other one Dan lives in Idaho, and then her daughter Nancy lives in Indiana. She has 5 grandchildren, and she has 5 great-grandchildren, ages 5 and under, down to 3 months. So Carolyn taught kindergarten in Minneapolis, and then here in California, she continued teaching children in Sunday school and church situations. And then she also taught for the Red Cross, and she had a class, a babysitting class, and this was for junior high school, I said girls, and she said guys too. It was an 8-week course with a certificate. I think that's very, very significant. Now, Carolyn had a unique ministry. Since her husband died almost 32 years ago, she opened her house in Monrovia to a church lady who needed a place to stay. And she stayed for 10 years. And she had included the daughter with her too. Then later, she also invited another church lady in, and this lady stayed for 18 and a half years. And she had 4 kids, and you can imagine, in and out, 4 kids along with this lady. So Carolyn displayed remarkable patience, fortitude, kindness, and hospitality. Thank you, Carolyn. And now she's here, and she's really enjoying being alone. Having her own space and freedom to relax. So Carolyn is no stranger to Atherton. She used to belong to the auxiliary. She came to the monthly meetings, and she has had friends here. And she mentions how the auxiliary started the coin jar that we all contribute to on the desk for the Christmas presents for the patients in skilled nursing. And so Carolyn is a wonderful addition to our beautiful Atherton community. Welcome, Carolyn.
Thank you. Welcome, Carolyn. On those evenings where Hilda's a little bit angry with me, do you have an extra bed I can come over and sleep in your living room sofa or something? I won't say 18 years, but I can't promise anything. I'm sitting over here. I may not have introduced myself. I'm Daryl Chan. You may not recognize me because I'm wearing long pants. And I usually wear short pants, but out of respect for our mayor tonight, I wore long pants and a shirt with buttons on it instead of a t-shirt. But no, I do want to introduce our illustrious mayor of Atherton, Mr. Craig Stead.
Well, good evening, everyone. It's nice to be with you again. So I think Daryl's the only one that refers to me as the mayor. And I must admit, sometimes I feel like a mayor running around and trying to keep the community going and solving the problems here and there. But anyway, it's always a delight to be with you and share with you a little bit. So tonight I'm going to talk a little bit about Atherton, the report I gave to the board about how Atherton was doing at the end of the third quarter. The end of the third quarter was at the end of September. And I shared with them a little bit about the health of the community, where I think it's at. I'll also talk a little bit tonight about the resident fee increase for next year and give you a little bit of information about that. I'm also talking about that later this week on Thursday, and I can talk more about that and go over that then. But I will go over it again tonight for a little bit, and then talk to you about some of the other projects and the things that are going on around the community. So I will tell you a couple things before I do this report. Number one, they're supposed to come tomorrow and finish up the Christmas lights, and those should go on tomorrow night. So that'll be nice. We haven't got Maloney Manor figured out yet, so we're still working on that. But some of the other lights around the campus will be up. And they're also supposed to put up the sunshades over the new plaza area tomorrow. But they were supposed to do that today, and they were supposed to do that last week, and they were supposed to do that the week before that. So there is no guarantee that it's going to happen tomorrow, but nonetheless, that's the latest date I've got for that project, and I'll talk a little bit about the project. So anyway, it's great to be here and talk a little bit about that. Every time I start a presentation with the board or the residents or even the staff, I talk about what the mission and values and vision of Atherton are. And the mission of Atherton is simply to be a senior living community rooted in Christian values, enriching lives and honoring all. And the vision of Atherton is to continue Hannah's vision of honoring those who have served in Christian ministry. And the values that we seek to uphold is faith, kindness, gratitude, and joy. We pray that that vision and those values will not only be with the staff of Atherton, but with the residents of Atherton and how they treat and interact with one another. We pray that that's part of that. When we talk about enriching lives and not enriching all and honoring all, we're talking about that in hopes of doing that for the residents of Atherton. We're talking about doing that with the staff of Atherton. So those things continue on both sides of what we're trying to do here in our community. So for the last several years, I've always started these presentations with a statement: how do I think Atherton is doing? And I just try and answer that question, and then I give kind of the fill-in after that, but I kind of make a series of statements that give you an idea of how I feel like Atherton is doing. And right now, I believe that Atherton is healthy. And I do that based upon four reasons. Number one, occupancy is solid, but marginally behind. In other words, we had some goals set. We haven't quite made those, but it's very solid in where we're at. The second thing is our financials are ahead of budget, and that says the investments were down for the quarter, but still in healthy. And we'll talk more about that. Number three there is that COVID. We still have cases, and we have only minor issues. So some of you, just for some information, so it seems like that almost every week, one or two staff people pop up with COVID. And that creates minor problems for us. For example, this past week, our IT person, Stephen, has had COVID. And he not only got COVID, but he got a rebound by COVID. And so it just takes people out longer. He's going to be out 10 days now. And so it just, we don't have a lot of really good backup. I'm the backup for IT. And my primary fix when people call me to do IT is to come over, turn your device off, and restart it and hope it fixes itself. Okay, so anyway, so that's part of that problem. And that has resulted in not only, so we have some TV problems that are going on in the courtyard, assisted living and skilled nursing, and we're having another tech out tomorrow to do that. But partly because he can't run down all those things and I'm having to pick up on some of that stuff, we're behind a little bit. So that's what COVID does. When we have people who get COVID, they can't come to work for at least 5 days. And we're not having bad outcomes. We're not having people go to the hospital or anything like that. But it creates random problems that we have around. Past week, a survey is here for skilled nursing. So once a week, the state comes and surveys skilled nursing. And it was pretty frustrating because they're now all on computers, and so you have to give them rights to use your computers in different sets. And of course, Stephen wasn't here to give them those rights. And so one person said, well, just have him come in and sit in his office. And my answer was, no, we're not having somebody COVID positive come in the building. Because you never know how that's going to end. So anyway, so COVID's still out there. We still have issues with it around, and it still muddles things a little bit. The fourth thing is that the 2023 projects are mostly completed. As I said before. A few little things we're kind of finishing up, but most of them are done. And then we're in the process of planning new projects for 2024 because we never stop doing stuff like that around Atherton. And that's a good thing. You want to continue to improve the community as you can. And so we continue to look for new ways to do that. But as a whole, we're healthy. So let me talk to you about a couple things. So this is over here. This is the occupancy as of the end of September. And this is the occupancy as of today. And the reason I follow occupancy so close is because of why? That's right. Occupancy drives revenue. 95% of the revenues of Atherton come in from what you give. Pay. Okay. It's not a donation, right? So 95% of the revenue. So if more units are full, Atherton's healthier. If less units are full, then that's a problem for us. We budget right at the 90% level, right in here. We budget at that. And if we make those numbers, we can make all of our expenses and cover all those things. So what you can see is we're a little bit behind. We budgeted at 155 for regular classic and we're 148. We budgeted at 47 for the courtyard and we're at 47. We budgeted at 32 for assisted living, we're at 31. And we budgeted for 80 in skilled nursing and we were up above that. Okay, so that's kind of that. This breaks out, skilled nursing is about 45% of the revenues of Atherton. Independent living, assisted and independent living are about 50% of the revenues, and then there's a 5% there that comes from miscellaneous kinds of things. So you can see we're behind a little bit, but we're close enough that we were able to make up those things, and you can see here. So we've already come up in classic, though we're still a little bit below, but we've come up, and we have 4 people that are moving in. One by the end of the year and others coming in January. We're down a little bit in courtyard, but we have 1 being filled this month. And then in assisted living, we're down a little bit, but we're coming back up there. And in skilled nursing, we're under here, and that's okay. We're managing that. So that tells you our occupancy is solid. So Atherton for the last 5 years has had over 90% occupancy. If you're in the industry, if you're at 90% or over in occupancy, you're considered to be very solid and in what's called high occupancy in terms of the industry. At times, Atherton has had up to 95% occupancy, but then people move to different levels of care, different things like that. We're always turning over and getting ready for stuff. And so as a whole, Atherton's very healthy with where our census is, where our occupancy is, and we're thankful for that. When you look at the quarterly finances, these are just big numbers here that you can kind of see. And this is basically the summary. What I want to show you here is that basically this number of total revenues is healthy. It's above budget. Atherton as a whole is about a $25 million a year company. So we receive about $25 million a year in revenues, and we spend about 21 or 22 of that in what we do. And then we have other things that some of those monies are invested towards. But we're up above where we were last year at this point, which is we plan to be there, and so we're there. And our expenses are not up as much as our revenues are, so that's a healthy thing. And as also you can see that we have about $3 million of operating income over expenses, whereas last year we were about 2.5. And so then you do what's called depreciation and amortization. That means that you pay for things over time. Depreciation is paying for things over time. For example, we built the duplex over here, and though we paid all the cash for it on our balance sheet, it'll be amortized or depreciated over the next 30 years. So the cost will be spread out those years. And that's the way, one of the ways that businesses do this. And so as a result of that, we ended up having operating income. You take that away, you have an operating income that's pretty healthy there. We're very thankful for that. And then all these other things are about investments and those kinds of things that we have in our portfolio. And investments go up and down. So last year at this time, we lost $4 million in investments. Okay. This year, we're up by about $1 million. Okay. And as a result of that, there's only about a $5 million swing. Okay. And it'll be reflected. You'll see it in a little bit about that. So all the things that went down last year came back up this year. So we're just in a healthier place because we didn't sell them then. We didn't go and get rid of them. They went down for a season and then they came back up. You guys are kind of aware of that and some of the things that you do in the stock market. Things go down and they come back up and they go back down again. And it's a lot like a yo-yo, right? This is the revenues, and what I want to show you here is this shows you here. So of this almost $19 million, you can see almost 18 million of it comes from these two: residential, which is assisted living, independent, and from nursing. And that's kind of where you see that, and that makes up 95% of the revenues there. And then these other things are much less to do that. And these are in the residential space, we're ahead. So we've received more money because our occupancy is solid for last year and even ahead of last year. In nursing, we were under. So we didn't have as many people in the nursing space that would cover this cost. This primarily is because last year, we budgeted this year believing that we would get some revenues from the federal government, from the state government on Medi-Cal that would still have what's called a COVID subsidy in it. When COVID came, the state of California took money that was given by the federal and gave skilled nursing facilities more money for each resident that was in skilled nursing under Medi-Cal. Okay. That happened for 4 years. From what we understood, it was supposed to happen for this year and be passed through. It has not come in the way that we thought it was going to come. So we budgeted thinking it was going to be there. It ended up not being there. In a way, we've tried to talk and see about that and see if we missed something. It appears that the state is not passing through things in the same kind of way. They're taking a much longer period of time to do that. So that's a lot of what that problem has been. Excuse me. And then we had some gifts and things. So some of the net gifts haven't come in the way we thought we were going to. But our investments, the sale of our investments has done pretty well this year. When things were high, we sold them, we took some profits, and then we'll and put that money on the sideline in cash so that when the market went down, we could reinvest and go back up. And so that's kind of the ongoing. So you can see that in terms of revenues, we're actually we're ahead of where we budgeted, even though we have some areas where we're down. The total is higher than what we thought we were going to budget. In expenses, you have this similar kind of thing. You have the expenses that come from wages and salaries, and then you have the expenses that come from all other things that we do in terms of that. And about 45% of the money that you give to Atherton goes directly to the salaries and benefits of the employees that work here. So Atherton has about 220 employees right now. It at one point when I first came had about 250 employees. And we've come down a little bit in some areas where we tried to be a little bit more efficient and cover some things. We've had some part-time employees who no longer work for us and do that, and we picked up some other things. But so that kind of leaves you there. But we're ahead in terms of wages and benefits here, and we're ahead in terms of just operating expenses. So we're pretty healthy in terms of what we've done by benefits to do that. And that's allowed us to be a little bit more efficient. We did something else this past quarter that we planned to do, in that we had a lot of employees that worked for Morrison. They were paid through Morrison. We brought many of those employees in maintenance and grounds and housekeeping back over to the Atherton side, and that saved us some money. Their benefits did not change, their salaries did not change, but we were able to eliminate a middle person and allow us to save some money. So that helps for all of us, and that's part of, you can see about $250,000, about $500,000 was saved as a result of all that we're doing there in this area. So as a whole, it's pretty healthy where you can see that. So the other thing that I try and do is tell you, how do you figure out those numbers? What do they mean? And so one of the things we do is we measure ourselves against other communities. And that's what this basically is. This is a way that we measure ourselves to do that. And I'm not going to go through all of that. I'm going to take you to some charts that help you, maybe you can see it a little bit better. So these are, in each slide, there's two sets of measurements that help people understand about the financial health of Atherton. The first one is one of the ways that they measure a financial health of an institution like ours. It's what's called days cash on hand. Another way to say this is, how much do you have in your piggy bank? Okay. So in our piggy bank, you can kind of see that for the industry to be BBB rated by Fitch, you need to have about 457 days cash on hand. In other words, if you folks did not give another dime to Atherton, how long could it run? Well, that's industry average. But Atherton can actually run 482 days. Okay, so that's over a year. We've been up to 500, but last year, remember when I told you we were $3 million down? Okay, that's what that number was. It's come back up, so we're in a much healthier position, and we're very thankful for that. And so, over the last several years, we've worked hard to try and create more buffers. Now, why would I want to do that? The primary reason I want to do that is because if the United States or if the economy goes into recession, if there's other issues, I can buffer that. I can still make sure that we can cover costs without turning to you mid-year and saying, I've got to do a rate increase. Atherton has traditionally only done financial adjustments on a yearly basis once a year. But there are other communities wherein if you're tighter, then you have to ask for more halfway through the year, different kinds of, we've tried to avoid that. And one of the reasons why is because we've been able to get a healthier balance sheet. The other thing is cash to debt. So in other words, you go out and you borrow money. You go out and borrow money for a house, right? You go out and borrow that money, and then you're also feeding your bank account, and over time you have enough resources that maybe you want to pay off your mortgage, but you don't. One of the reasons why you might not pay off your mortgage is because you borrowed that money at 2 to 3 to 4%. You got a really good rate, and you have this money in the bank, and it's getting 5, 6, 7, 8, 10%. So you decided I'm just going to keep it there and keep paying off. I can manage it. So Atherton, in the industry, about cash to debt is about 62%, and Atherton is way up above that. So Atherton is at 112%. So the money that we borrowed to build the courtyard, we could go, if we wanted to, we could go pay that all off right now. But the rate is so good, and the investments are making more money for us, it's better not to do that right now. But it puts us in a very advantageous place, because now we don't have to really worry that much about that debt. We just have to manage it on a regular basis. So that metric, those metrics are about what's in your piggy bank. Okay? And the piggy bank is healthy right now. We're in a very healthy place for that. That's a good thing for us. The next one are what I call operational metrics, and that is, how well do you use your money? are your income covering your expenses. And in this case, a tradition for business is what's called a net operating margin. And you can see that it's about 4.7% for this industry, and Atherton's at about 4.3. Okay. Now, when we had COVID in here and we lost residents, we lost revenue. And as a result of that, we went way down in 2021. Okay. But we've been able to come back up and be in a much healthier place. Operating ratio is a little bit about the inverse of that. And so in our industry, we're not a highly profitable industry. In other words, in the industry, 99 cents out of every dollar is used in expenses. Okay? Atherton's a little bit better than that. They're about 96.3. So basically 96 cents of every dollar that you pay to Atherton goes back into the maintenance and the care of this community. It's a very low profit margin. That it's positive is good, but it's a very low profit margin. We put all those dollars right back into work to care for the community, to do the things that we need to do around the community. But we're in healthy places for the industry. And finally, these are what are called operational metrics that have to do with how we're using specific things. How many of you remember paying an entrance fee to come to Atherton? Okay. All right. Ouch, right? At the time. But that money Atherton takes, invests, and uses to help make the community better. And we measure that about how well we're doing. And in the industry, about 20.1% is where it's at for a healthy net operating margin adjusted, or how those entry fees play out. Over the last several years, we have not been able to match that. And this year, we're down here a little bit. But over here, we were really up really high. Anybody got any idea why that was? Not exactly inflation. So the courtyard entry fees are a little bit different from the regular classic entry fees. They're called repayables. And so when the family leaves the community or passes, they get money back. In the early years of courtyard, we just kept filling up. Okay? And those entry fees came in. Okay? And then about 5 years in, we started having to pay back some of those because people passed, moved to other levels of care. And so as a result, that's changed. And that's kind of what this is all about. Here it was because we lost so many people in COVID, we had to pay back a lot of those. Okay? And that's what created this. And so that's where we're at. That's kind of why there is. We've paid out more. We've paid out some. We haven't paid out more than we've taken in, but we've paid out more, and that's part of that. And the other one then is how much money are we spending to keep the community up? And it says you should spend about 127% of depreciation. Atherton should spend almost $2 million a year to keep the community up. Okay? So as it looks, we've been way under that. We haven't been up to 127. This year we're up over 100. Okay? And the reason that is because you can't spend money and grow money, right? You can't continue to put money in your bank, in your piggy bank, and spend it at the same time. That doesn't work. And so Atherton for the last 5 to 7 years has been at a balancing act of trying to raise its cash reserves so it will be healthy for a rainy day, but at the same time invest in the community. The other thing is that this kind of reflects is we decided to build a building. Buildings are expensive to build. So that's what that reflects, and that's why those higher numbers are to do that. So as a whole, that kind of gives you an idea about how the finances of Atherton. Okay, so do you have any questions about all that, or have I thoroughly bored you and lost you? I never know whether I'm doing that good or not. Okay, so this is the 2024 budget. So you ask, what's going to happen this year with our fees? So this is the budget, and basically Atherton has built a budget of right around $25.5 million in budget. We're going to spend about 22, almost 23. Then after depreciation, operating expenses and everything, we're going to end up having $33,827 in profit at the end. In other words, we created a balanced budget here. In 2022 and 2023, we're basically pretty much in line with that. We had planned to have basically about a $48,000 profit, and we're going to end up, based upon where we're at, about $2 million. Most of that is because our investments, if the stock market continues, are going to do okay this year. And that's going to create that profit. It's not because of our operations. You saw in there, we spend about 98 cents out of every dollar to take care of the community. So it's not like that. It's because of other investments that we're using that help us to do that. And so we're going to end up being healthy at the end of this year and being in a very healthy place. But we budgeted next year right at all of our expenses and everything in, and that's going to be. And the primary reason that is because of the kind of forces that are pushing against us. So I was talking to somebody about the duplex that we built over here, the new duplex. And I said, when we started that project, it was about $500,000 less than when we finished. In other words, the cost went up about $500,000, which was about 35%. It was just much more expensive the further we got into that. And we're experiencing that same things, though not quite at that rate, in other things we're doing. So as you can see here, we budgeted based upon similar kinds of numbers that we had last year, and we're close to that. We're trying to stay right within where those numbers are, okay? And we had to add a rate increase of about 5%. But the big challenges for us is if we're going to keep the men and women who work at Atherton here at Atherton, we're going to have to give them about a 5% increase next year. And we're thankful, we're glad that we can do that, but we're just doing that just to maintain our workforce. The other thing is that increasingly the state government has said that workers who work in the senior living industry, they need to go and get a wage of $25 an hour. So housekeepers, dietary workers, dishwashers, all of these folks need to move towards getting $25 an hour. So next year, as of June, all of them have to be at $21 an hour. Then the following June of 2025, they're going to have to be at they're going to have to be at $22 an hour. Then 2026, they got to be at 23. And I think then it jumps after that. Then at the beginning of 2027, it needs to be at 2024. And halfway through the year, it needs to be at 2025. This just keeps coming. And we're mandated to do that. And so we have to continue to put that in. The way that we do that 5%, it's going to get everybody there. In other words, all the people that are saying. So right now, I think the lowest employee of Atherton right now is making about $17, maybe $18 an hour. Okay, so some of those people will jump. They'll jump more than 5% to get to 21. But those are the kinds of things that are driving. 45% of our expenses is in salaries and wages. And by the way, when you raise the wage, then you have to raise the additional amount that you'll pay in withholding tax. You have to raise the amount you're going to pay in Social Security tax. So there's also these ancillary charges that get put in to all of that, and that's just coming down the line. And so we have to keep working in that. We've done a pretty good job of keeping our healthcare costs down. Last year they raised 7%. This year they're only going to raise about 4.6%. Atherton pays 85% of our employees' health care. So they only pay 15%. We can't pay 100, although, well, I will say this. We have one healthcare policy that Atherton will pay 100% if they want to do that. It is a limited policy, and by a limited policy, it means that it only has a certain select network of doctors and hospitals that you can go to. But if those are the doctors and hospitals you already go to, that's not a problem. There are expanded healthcare policies that we pay 85% for that give you more in their network. But we actually do have a policy in which we will pay 100% for our employees. And last year we had about 25 employees that took that up. I think this year we're probably going to have 35 to 40 employees that'll take that up. So I'm really thankful that we can offer that and do that. And then the other policies we have are a little bit higher. Our utility costs continue to go up. And last year they went up about 5%. This year they're going to go up about 7% and 10%. The city of Alhambra has told us that our water will go up 10% a year for the next 5 years, every year. And that is because they have a lot of infrastructure projects that they need to take care of. Now, Atherton's trying to do some stuff to minimize the amount of water we use. Almost everything's on sprinklers and timers. We don't just go out and run water. We've taken out some grass in certain areas where it doesn't seem to make any sense to do that. We've added more drip irrigation where we're doing flowers and different things like that. We water on off hours when we don't have as much evaporation. So we're trying to do as much of that. But Atherton has a lot of trees also around the community. And you like trees. You tell me that on a regular basis when I take one out. Okay? And trees need water. And so not all of it can be topical. And it's very expensive to put water deep down in there. So we're trying to manage this as best we can as we do so. We do drought tolerant, drought resistant. We do drip and different things like that when we landscape larger areas and work around that. But we're also trying to give enough water to make sure that we keep the campus green, keep the flowers blooming, and keep the trees alive. And so those are part of that. And so that's just expensive to do that. Our workers' comp insurance went down a little bit. We're very thankful for that. And then Atherton has a retirement plan for all of its employees. Atherton pays 4% to every employee into a retirement plan to do that, and then we will match another 2%. So an employee, if they want to give that 2%, they can have 8% of their salary for retirement. So there are many of our employees that are much younger that would say to us, can you do away with that and just give me the money? Oh. And you all know that can be deadly because the years pass much quicker than you ever thought they were going to pass, don't they? And when you have the least amount of energy, you don't want to have the least amount of money. And so our board has said, no, we will not do that. We will continue to offer this benefit. We believe it's a good benefit to offer, even though some of our younger workers say, I'm never going to stay there long enough. I don't care, I would take the money, but Atherton has said, no, this is our policy. This is what we're doing, and we're going to do all that. So all of those assumptions and all of those costs have created, in order to create a balanced budget, a 5% rate increase across the board for the residents of Atherton next year. So now when you look at nationally, this is a company called Ziegler that looks at about 150 communities across the United States. What you can see is these are the rate increases that have happened over the last several years. And last year, the median increase was 6%. This year, the median increase that they're hearing is about 5%. So we're about median. Last year, we were at 5%. And so we were in the lower part of what the rate increases was. The year before that, we were at 4%. And so we were a little bit lower than where they were at. And then these other years, we were at 3%. I had one resident say to me, "Are you ever going to stop raising our rates 3% a year?" So the last 2 years, I've stopped that. He said, "You went the wrong direction." So I was thinking the other way, not this way. I understand. So that gives you. So we're basically within what's happening all the way through the industry, all the way here, to do that. Okay. So I say again, there will be a 5% monthly increase in 2023. Why? Increased staffing costs is the biggest thing. Challenging not only the retention and keeping us competitive to keep the men and women who are here working here, but also the minimum wage mandate is just driving us to make sure that we keep those wages up there. We're not trying to be exorbitant in what we give, but we're trying to be fair and honest with what we're doing. Healthcare insurance, we've been able to manage that pretty well. We think that we do a pretty good job in there. There are increased operation costs. You heard about that when I told you a little bit about the building of the duplex, but in all areas where we try and do stuff, when we put new lights in, when we put new LED lights around, which reduces theoretically energy costs, but there's a capital investment in those. You know, an LED light that we put in, a flat panel LED light, is about $55 for us to put that in the kitchen or put it someplace. Fluorescent bulbs cost about $10. So you hope that you make that up over time by reducing the amount of energy costs to do that. But we think it looks better. We think it's more efficient. We think it gives better light, and we think it's a better investment for the long term of our community. Fluorescent bulbs will go out probably within 4 to 6 months. LED lights, they usually last 3 to 5 years. So you're hoping that you do that. That they all tell you that this is a better investment. I'm not convinced of it yet, but anyway, that's what we're doing. We're kind of going there. But those are the costs: increased energy, labor for professional services, supply costs. All those things are just driving what it is. It was good to know today that the cost of that inflation went down for the last quarter. That's good to know. If prices stabilize more, that'll help. Maybe we can get back to that 3% that you all love so much. Anyway, but those are kinds of things. So any questions about that? Yes, ma'am.
Greg, should that statement be 5% for 2024?
Yes.
Yes.
But it's just ditto from 2023. But you're absolutely right. I'll fix that. You're absolutely right. Yeah. Anyone else? Questions about that? Okay. Let me tell you about a couple other things. So these are all the projects that we started. And I took this slide, and everything is read what I said in November of 2022 about the projects for 2023. And here's a blanket statement of all the projects of 2023. For the most part, everything was behind schedule and over cost. As a manager, I failed terribly. Okay, so the duplex, we started in August of 2022. We said that it'd be built in 22 to 24 weeks. We said it'd be done by February 7th of 2023. We didn't make it, Sonia. At any rate, we got a temporary occupancy in November of 2023, and the duplexes, the folks have moved in now. Today, yesterday, the B unit was moved in. And as a whole, we still have minor problems that we're working through, but we're trying to get it all ready to go for them. We will not get final occupancy until we put solar panels on those, on that building. And we're in the process of working through that. That'll probably happen in January. So with my acumen and my timing, it'll probably happen sometime in the spring of 2024. Okay, but anyway, so that's the duplex. The nurse call system. So we were awaiting final plans in November of 2022. We had to upgrade the phone system, and I said that would be done in the first quarter of 2023. We finished that in October of 2023. So the most interesting thing that happened with that project was we had a new nurse call system. We had it all designed. We had it bid out. We signed contracts, everything we're going to do, and they came through and we got passed by the regulatory agency, and they came in to do the installing, and the installer walked through and he said, I can't do this. I can't do this the way they've designed it. It won't work. And it was because we were using external, what's called conduit, and those were going to have to buttress up against the lights, and that's out of code. I said, you cannot do this. And so we had to rethink the whole plan. We had to resubmit it. And basically we decided that what we were going to do is go through existing conduits. So in order to go through existing conduits, we had to go out. The old system was about 40 years old. So we had to pull out all the old wire, okay, to run the new wire in. But here was the other problem. In addition to running the wire for the call system lights, all the phone lines were in there. And if you leave anything 40 years in conduit, it all meshes together. And so as a result of that, we had to put a whole new phone system in Fox 1 and Fox 2. We pulled all that wire out and we had to rerun all that wire again and put a brand new phone system in all the way through. So we got it done. It got work. Residents of skilled nursing didn't have phones for almost a month. Thank you for cell phones. Most of them don't use their room phones. But it took us a month to get all of that redone and did that. And that's what caused that problem. Unfortunately, I learned an important lesson. Salesmen don't always give you the best understanding of how this project is going to work. It's better to go to an installer than a salesman. So anyway, the cafe project. So you've kind of seen where we projected that we would start that in December of 2020. It'd be done in December of 2022 by March of 2023. And we just finished that project. So I was only 6 months behind on that one. You notice I'm getting better. The Plaza project, we said, well, it would be done by the end of the second quarter of 2023. I'm still waiting for the sunshades. So that one's not quite done. I hope to finish that by the end of 2023. The only project that actually worked really well was we had to redo the tile in the kitchen. And it was a $75,000 project. And we had to shut down the kitchen in order that they pull all that tile out, reseal it, reseal the floor, and then put the tile back in. And we started that in the third quarter. It was completed in October. It was about a 2-week project. No, it was a week project. We did that in 1 week. And so the kitchen was down. We couldn't use that. We had to think of some alternatives and do some stuff around that, but that project got done, and so we're very thankful for that. So those are the main projects we took on this year. They took a lot more time and energy, but as a whole, as we complete the year, I don't have to run any of those projects into 2024, I don't think. So projects for other things that we're going to do for this next year. So we have a major remodel of the kitchen. We're going to invest $750,000 to upgrade our kitchen at Atherthon. It's been since, I think, the 1990s when that kitchen has been upgraded. And so this year, it'll take us about 2 weeks. The kitchen's going to be down again in order to do this. We're going to do it in segments and things like that. But we're going to spend basically $750,000 to upgrade our kitchen, to make it more efficient, to make it better, to work better all the way through for all the staff and be able to cover the next 20 years for that. There's some simple things they're going to do. It's real interesting. You know, they have a really big stove back there. They have a really big hot tub, and then they have all the burners and everything where they cook in anything. And we're actually going to put a refrigerator below the stove. And as a result of that, When they need to get cream out for a sauce, they open the door, reach down, get the cream, put the cream in the sauce while it's cooking, and then put it back in the refrigerator and close it. Been able to do that now. So it'll make everything. Right now, if he needs cream, he has to get up and walk to the cooler on the other side and go in the cooler and pull it out and then come back and do that. So we think that it's going to make all of them, all of the cooks, the sous chefs, and everybody be much more efficient because of the kind of equipment that they now have, and be able to turn out meals quicker and more individualistic, if you will. Try and do those kinds of things because we'll have better stations for them. So we're really thankful for that. So Atherthon also is going to put a new generator into skilled nursing. So the state, do you remember a couple years ago when they had the hurricanes in Florida and the people lost their lives in skilled nursing because they didn't have air conditioning, okay, in Florida? And so as a result of that, states all around the United States looked at this thing and said, we never want that to happen. So they passed a law saying that we have to keep the ambient temperature in skilled nursing between 71 and 81 degrees for 96 hours if we have no power. Okay. Okay, so we can go to 96 hours. So as a result of that, we're going to have more diesel fuel on our campus because our current diesel only cover about 20 hours. So we're going to have a larger tanks. And so you have to go through all of that with AQMD and Alhambra because they don't particularly want you to have 96 hours of fuel around places. But we also have to add a second generator because the way that our skilled nursing system is put together, we're basically going to have to power the whole thing for 96 hours. We can't just power the heating and cooling. It's all woven and tied together when they built it in. It's the nature of that system. And so as a result of that, we're in the process of beginning to look at that and figure out how we're going to do that so we can comply with skilled nursing. We're going to start a refresh of Fox 1 and Fox 2 resident rooms and hallways. So it's been about 25 to 30 years that it's been about 20 years since we've redone the carpet and we've redone the painting in Fox 1, Fox 2, the rooms and everything. It's about time. They missed their 10-year reunion, their 10-year renovation. So we're going to do that. We're working on that and getting that ready. And that's actually one of the big projects that you're going to hear more about. And we're going to ask you if you're interested in giving to help us to do that project. And then we're working on planning and starting to redo Jocelyn and make it into an assisted living facility instead of a skilled nursing facility. Atherthon is lowering the number of skilled nursing beds and raising the number of assisted living units that it has at Atherthon. And the primary reason we're doing that is one, it's regulatory. It's becoming more difficult to keep skilled nursing residents and to afford to keep skilled nursing residents. But the second thing is the cost of skilled nursing is continuing to rise at a much faster pace than assisted living. And most of you would rather be in assisted living than you would skilled nursing. And so that we believe that if we lower those beds and open those rooms up to be a much larger area, we'll move from having basically 32 assisted living beds to about 48, 32 assisted living rooms to having about 48 assisted living units, and we'll move from having a 99-bed skilled nursing down to about a 75, 72 is where we're trying to go. So we're going to do a major remodel of Jocelyn, and then we're going to do a major remodel of Villa to allow us to do that and be more flexible in the ways that we have people in skilled nursing and assisted living. This is just a, let me see if did I do that one? Did that one? Oh yeah. So this is this is Jocelyn right now. And so somebody said to me, if you do that, those Jocelyn rooms are really small. Yes, some of them are pretty small. Actually, in order to do them assisted living, we're actually combining some of them. Okay, and putting showers and all of that in there. And in those that are along the wellness garden, we're actually going to extend that out to make those rooms bigger. And so we're going to take up part of the wellness garden and work around there. And so there's 16 units that are here. And then in the center, we're going to add some different amenities and stuff. So that's kind of where we're at. That's kind of our plan to move forward with that. And we're going to get started on that in 2024. So anyway, just to show you that. And then the last, and then the last one is we're planning for the remodeling of the villa assisted living. So those are the kinds of projects that we're going to do. These two will not be accomplished in 2024. This one will probably be finished in 2025. This is probably a 2026, 2027 project. These are just going to take a while because we have to house residents at the same time we do major renovations. And so anyway, we've decided that we're going to have to take longer to do that. And then the last thing I was going to mention to you is, most of you know I said that I plan to retire at the end of 2024. So I plan to be here all through 2024 if needed. And if the new CEO comes in and says, you're out of here, I'm out of here. Okay. So in January of 2025, at the end of 2024, I'll be 69 years old. And so I've decided that's a good time for me to retire. Besides that, my wife has said, if you don't, you can stay working. You're just going to need to find a new wife. So I took that.
Work on that.
Well, I kind of took that as an ultimatum. I kind of like her, so I'm going to hang with her. You can go on the couch, but I'm going to stay in the bed. So nonetheless, the board is in the process of conducting a search for a new CEO. And we hope to have somebody here by the first part of April. Somebody will have accepted the position and wanting to move forward. And the search is pretty broad. I did not come from a senior living background, did not know much about senior living when I came into this position, was able to learn it and do the job. And I think there's other folks that could do that if we find the right person to do that. So that's part of why I'm willing to stay or go. And it'll take, if they don't have much experience in senior living, then I'll probably hang around longer. Okay, so that I can be here and help them learn and work through that, just like Dennis did for me. And if they have a lot of experience in senior living and they feel like they know what they're doing, I'll hang around for a while so they can get to know you better. Okay, won't have to have the burden of running things as much as they will have the burden of drinking lots of coffee and going to receptions and doing things like that, because most of this is about human relations, getting to know people and feeling good about them. And so we'll work around that. So that's kind of what it is. So this tells you a little bit about that. Atherthon chose a firm by the name of Vanderblumen from Houston, Texas, that basically does research, basically helps place pastors and executives in churches and in Christian organizations like ours. And so that's the reason we chose them. We had a consultant who came out and we did met with the search team in October, and we have a profile that is actually up. And if you want to go to Vanderblumen and then just look there for jobs, you can kind of go your way down and you'll see Atherton Baptist Homes, and you can click on there and you'll see what the profile is and all of those kinds of things. Sometime in mid-December, they're going to come back to us and say, so the profile's been up a month. This is the kind of reaction. This is kind of the insights that we're getting. These are kind of folks that are answering to do this. Is this within what you'd hope? Okay. And so we're going to take a look at the candidates. Or they'll say, nobody's interested in that job. So we may need to tweak this profile a little bit better to do some stuff. So that's meant to be a benchmark kind of to give us an idea if we're gathering the right kind of candidates, people that we want to talk to, and do that. And then starting in January, they'll bring us somewhere between 3 and 5 people that they think are qualified, have been vetted, and could do this position. They think they fit who Atherthon is, and their skills match that. And so then the search committee will then do interviews and work with them in the months of January and early February, and hopefully make an offer, and then get somebody that would accept the job. And that's why we're hoping to get them in April. And so that's kind of where that's at for that, to see that. The search committee for this, there's 2 committees. The board appointed 2 committees. One committee is the search committee. It includes 3 members of the board and 2 residents of Atherton. So the members of the board are Dale Montgomery, who's the chairman of the board, Steve Garcia, who serves on the board, and Gary Freeholz, who is from Alhambra here, is a native of Alhambra. Some of you know Gary pretty well because he helped you sell your house. He's been on the board for about 12 years. He's a great guy. We're very happy to have him. And then 2 residents, Corey Yoshida and Hilda Sang, are both on that. And so if you have strong opinions about who that person needs to be, you can see them. Okay? Corey and Hilda, they would be more than happy to listen to you and have you that. And then we've created a second committee, what we call the onboarding committee. And that committee will be the people that will help this new person get situated, get set in the community. And included on that is Dale and Warren Williams, who's a longtime member of the board, Kevin Cho and Linda Walpus, and then June Sakaguchi, Betsy Glanville, and Carol Jones will also, those are 3 residents who will all be that. I'm ex officio at both of those committees, which means I have a say, I don't have a vote. Okay, so I can make my opinion known, but when the push comes to shove, I'm not the one that chooses. And so that's kind of how that process goes within that. Okay. All right. So anyway, questions. Do you have any questions for me? Oh yeah, I'm only 5 minutes over, so not bad. Yes, ma'am.
Irving Terrace elevator.
Yes. Okay. So I have 2 major problems on campus right now. One is the TV system. 3 of those channels are working: ABC, NBC, and CBS, maybe 4, KTLA. All the PBS stations are still not working. He's supposed to be back tomorrow to see if we can get that TV system up. The second problem, the second challenge is the Irving Terrace elevator. And the primary reason that's been down so long is because they had to do they had to build a brand new what's called ram. In the bottom of that elevator is a big piston, and it pushes that elevator up. Unfortunately, you can't just go and get a piston off the shelf. There's none available at Home Depot. They actually had to physically build that. At least that's what they're telling me. And so anyway, I'm going because I don't know much about elevators. And so I hope they said that the piston would be ready this month. Now you all know my history on this kind of stuff, right? So at any rate, I am hoping that it comes. It will still take another month to put that in because they have to completely disassemble the elevator, take basically what's called the cabinet that you ride in out of that elevator, disassemble it, take it out, and then go down and lift the old piston out, and then put the new piston in, and then reassemble that whole elevator. So it's going to take at least another month. If they called me tomorrow and said, it's ready, and we'll be there on Monday, it still would be almost Christmas before that elevator is up and running. So anyway, I'm very sorry about that. I don't have any control over this. The other thing is there's only 2 elevator companies. There's only 2 elevator companies for most of the United States. When you got it on an elevator, have you ever seen the word Otis?
Yes.
Yeah, if you have an Otis elevator, you only can use Otis. You can't mix and match those parts. This is not an Otis elevator. It's the other company. You can get other parts. You can get other parts around the world, but you still have to. There's only 2 companies that are out there doing this. So it's very frustrating about this. We've had we feel like that the company that we use has been very open and very helpful for us. But in this particular case, it's been very difficult for us, and I'm very sorry about that. So that's the best answer I've got. Okay. If it's really bad and you need really help to get up the 2nd floor, call me. I'll send Leo over. He'll put you on your back and he'll carry you up. Okay. If that's helpful, I'm glad I can be helpful.
Stand on each other's shoulders.
There we go. Yeah, I'm very sorry, but I don't have any other. I just don't have good news about that and can't move that any faster. Any other questions? All right. Well, so as I've said before, it's always a pleasure to serve you. It's great. So this has been a great job for me. I would not retire. I could continue to do this. I don't know but my wife really does want me to. And as much as I love you, I love her. And so anyway, I'm here for most of next year, unless they tell me, no, you're out of here. But thank you for allowing me to serve you.
Thank you very much, Craig. It's great to hear that we are in very good hands. We are doing well, and there's no one probably happier than our new resident Carolyn, because she doesn't want a stranger living on her sofa for the next 18 years. But thank you. And if you see our staff or administration around campus, please thank them, say hello, send them a card, a greeting.
So
He's never ends.
I know. One other quick thing. So you've seen this, and some of you are relatively new to Atherton. You've seen this in the Athertonian. So Atherton does not want you to give gratuities to people who help you. We ask you not to leave tips for the housekeeping staff that come and clean your place. We ask you not to leave tips for the